land of Karbala was silent. A dry plain stretched beneath the blazing sun with little shade and no shelter except the tents that had just been raised by the small caravan of Husayn ibn Ali. Only days earlier, this journey had still carried uncertainty. There had been questions. There had been hope. Perhaps there would be negotiation. Perhaps the people of Kufa would still come. Perhaps conflict could be avoided. But as Husayn and his family settled in Karbala, the truth was becoming impossible to ignore.
This was not a temporary stop. This was the place where the road ended. The small group with Husayn was not an army.
It was a camp made up of family members, children, and loyal companions. There were tents for the women, tents for the children, and a small number of men who stood ready to defend the camp if necessary. The mood in the camp was calm but uncertain.
The companions understood that they were surrounded by danger, but they remained beside Husayn willingly. Their loyalty was not based on numbers, it was based on conviction. Meanwhile, beyond the camp, more forces were arriving. The army sent under the authority of Yazid I was increasing in size. More soldiers gathered across the plains of Karbala. Dust rose on the horizon as reinforcements continued to arrive. The distance between the two camps was small. The difference in numbers was enormous. One side had a small group of loyal believers. The other had a growing military force. Yet in the camp of Husayn, there was no panic. There was concern. There was sadness. But there was also patience. Husayn continued to seek peace. He still hoped to avoid bloodshed. He did not seek war. He sought justice. But the orders given to the opposing army were becoming harsher, and soon the siege would begin.
As the days passed, the military presence around Karbala became stronger.
Command of the forces was placed under Umar ibn Sa'd, who arrived with authority over the growing army. His responsibility was clear. Husayn was not to leave. He was to be contained. At first, there was still room for negotiation. Messages were exchanged. Husayn made it clear that he did not wish to fight. He offered peaceful options. He proposed that he be allowed to return, or that he be allowed to go elsewhere. His goal was to avoid violence, but the orders coming from the leadership were not moving toward peace.
My command is clear. Husayn must not leave this land. Surround the camp. No path is to remain open.
I have not come here to wage war. If you do not wish for me to remain, then allow me to return, and let there be peace between us.
The command has come. There will be no withdrawal and no agreement. Tighten the control around Husayn's camp. He is not to leave.
They were moving toward pressure. And then, one of the harshest decisions was made.
The access to the Euphrates River was blocked. The river was near enough to see. Its water flowed within reach. Yet Husayn's camp was forbidden from accessing it. Soldiers were placed between the camp and the river. No water was to be taken. No access was to be allowed. This order changed everything. Until this moment, the situation had been political. Now it became humanitarian, because inside the camp were not only fighters, there were children, there were women, there were families. And now the source of water had been cut off.
At first, the effect was gradual. The water already in the camp began to run low. The heat of the desert consumed what remained.
The sun burned down on the tents. The dry wind carried dust across the plain. Every hour increased the hardship.
The thirst began to spread. The children felt it first. Their voices grew weaker. Their lips became dry. The women in the camp tried to comfort them, but comfort could not replace water. The men understood what was happening. They could hear the suffering around them. And all the while, the river flowed nearby, visible, close, yet unreachable.
This was one of the cruelest realities of the siege. The relief they needed was near them, but blocked by armed men. Inside the camp, the emotional pressure grew heavier. The suffering of the children deeply affected the companions.
These were men ready to face battle without fear. But hearing the thirst of the children tested them in a different way. Still, Husayn remained patient. He did not react with rage. He did not abandon his principles. Even under these conditions, he continued seeking a peaceful resolution. He spoke with the opposing side. He reminded them who he was. He reminded them that among his camp were the family of the Prophet. He appealed to conscience. But the siege remained. The water stayed blocked, and the suffering increased.
As the thirst worsened, the atmosphere in the camp changed. The companions could feel that the enemy was tightening control.
The siege was no longer just about stopping movement. It was about breaking morale.
It was an attempt to weaken the camp before any battle had even begun. Yet something unexpected happened. Instead of breaking the spirit of Husayn's camp, the hardship strengthened their resolve. The companions saw the suffering. They saw the thirst. They saw the injustice. And rather than abandon Husayn, they became more determined to stand beside him, because now the truth was undeniable. This was no longer about political allegiance. This was about standing against oppression. The camp of Husayn was small, thirsty, and surrounded, but it was united. Each person understood the seriousness of what was unfolding, and among them was one man whose heart could not bear to watch the suffering of the children. That man was Abbas ibn Ali. Known for his courage and loyalty, Abbas watched as the camp suffered from thirst. He saw the dry lips of the children. He heard their cries, and within him grew the determination to do something. Soon he would ride toward the river, not for victory, not for conquest, but for water. And that journey toward the Euphrates River would become one of the most emotional moments in the story of Karbala, because the next chapter would not only test courage, it would test loyalty at its deepest level.